and welcome to our discussion of Porter's five forces and the analysis of competitive position. So, this is a topic you may have heard of before, Porter's five forces. It's very important in the concept of managerial accounting. And again, this Porter's five forces, when we talk about these five individual forces, this allows for the analysis of the industry overall and the competitive position that you occupy within that industry, or the competitive position of current occupants of the industry if you're trying to look to get into the industry. So in some cases, you may be applying this five force analysis to make a decision about whether or not to enter the industry or whether you think it's wise to continue in the industry. Now, there's another type of analysis referred to as strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, known as SWOT analysis. This was a response to that concept of that theory that breaks it out into five separate forces that we need to take a look at. Who has the power compared to you? So first of all, let's take a look at the threat of new entrants. This is sometimes referred to as barriers to entry. This is a very important force, perhaps one of the more important forces for a brand new company looking to get into into the industry. First of all, they have to know, what does it take to get into the industry? What obstacles are there? Is there a required capital investment very large? Are there licenses that are required? Do you pretty much have to have relationships in the industry to really even start? What are the barriers to entry? Now, you need to know this if you're a new company looking to get into the industry, but it's also wise to know this if you're currently in the industry. When you are already in the industry, you prefer high barriers. That means that you are unlikely to have new competition. If there are very low barriers, you could have new competition all the time that you have to keep dealing with. One great example of this is the airline industry. Can you imagine the capital investment required to start an airline? You certainly have to have licenses. You have to have relationships with the airports to get slots to actually park your planes, pick up new passengers. You have to have terminals. That's something you don't just get overnight. That's something you have to establish a relationship with them. There has to be space. You're basically using them to market your services in a way. So very high barriers to entry. It's great for the current airlines, not so good for a brand new one looking to start. Another threat is that of substitutes. So if you're currently selling a product, you really prefer to be unique. You want to be the only one out there. If you had a preference, you don't want there to be a lot of similar products. So we're not just talking about normal competition. We're talking about products that are not quite the exact same, but they're similar. So if you think about it, soft drinks. Imagine the soft drink bottling companies decades and decades ago, before things like juice and certainly water and even tea became all that popular. They had a product that people either liked or they didn't like. A lot of them did like, obviously, and they buy soda. But all of a sudden, with the health benefits of juice, tea, even bottled water, over the years, people started to switch to those. Those are considered similar products because they serve the same purpose, to quench your thirst. So a lot of those soft drink companies ended up buying the juice, water, and tea companies, and they hold them as part of their own portfolio, knowing that otherwise this would be competition. It's not the exact same product, but it's similar enough to reduce their market share. Another example would be travel. Now, this doesn't always work. It depends on where you're talking about traveling to. But let's say it's a relatively short range distance. For example, every now and then I have to go from Omaha, Nebraska to Madison, Wisconsin. It's about a 6-hour drive. Not horrible. You have the option of taking the airline, flying there. You could possibly take a bus. You can take a train depending on where the location is. And of course, you may have the option of driving. These are all substitutes. If I was an airline, I would prefer that some of these other substitutes not look as appealing. So I would try to get people to take the plane instead of take the bus. So it just depends on where you are, what the substitute is. Another force that you have to consider in this analysis is the bargaining power of customers. So you're serving a customer, you're providing a product or a service to them, they're paying you. Now you tend to set a price, but you want to know what power do they have to perhaps change that price, change some of the conditions of the sale, change what they're getting from you. You want to know how much bargaining power they have. Of course, you as a supplier would prefer that they have relatively little power, but that's not always the case. You need to know what is the arrangement. Now, some things that impact the bargaining power might simply be the size of the customer. If they make up a very large percentage of your customer share of your sales overall, they're going to have more bargaining power than maybe somebody that's a really small customer. That's just by its nature. If you lose that customer because of a dispute, you all of a sudden have lost quite a bit of your sales. You may need to consider what would happen if you did lose this customer, this whole adverse word of mouth. If you lost this customer due to a dispute, what kind of power, what kind of following do they have as far as would they be, even if you think about social media nowadays, would they be publishing this information on social media, trying to get other customers to stop coming to you? So you have to take a look at that, especially in this day and age. Another thing that could impact the bargaining power is simply back to the similar products or other suppliers. If you're not the only one providing that unique product or service, they have the option to go elsewhere, and that inherently gives them bargaining power. It's something you have to consider. So now let's switch gears and talk about the bargaining power of a supplier themselves. So now we're reversing course. We are now the customer dealing with our vendor, our supplier. So again, really it's the flip side of what we just talked about. If you're a relatively small customer, your supplier may have more bargaining power. If that is the only supplier of whatever you're looking for, they have more power than you. They may have more bargaining power to raise a higher price. You may be locked into a contract, which of course gives them power based on whatever the contract stated. So those are all things that give the supplier more or less bargaining power. Finally, we have the fifth force, industry rivalry. Now we're just talking about competition in general. It could be several large competitors with equal strength. It could be a variety of mixture of the competitors, small, medium, and large. But how competitive is the industry? Does any one company have more market share than another? As a company in this particular type of industry where there's a high rivalry, you really want to be cautious of market share loss. You don't want to lose your market share, but you have to be careful about that. And that takes us to the end of our discussion on the Porter's 5-force analysis. Hopefully this has helped to clarify some of the topics in this type of analysis. Thank you for watching my accounting video on YouTube.com. I hope you've enjoyed that information. Accounting can be a difficult topic to conquer, and sometimes you just need additional information or assistance outside of the classroom. If you feel like you need some additional information, some additional resources, come visit my Udemy.com course. I have a variety of financial and managerial cost accounting courses available that may be able to assist you if you're having trouble with a particular course. In these courses at Udemy.com, I have additional lectures on a variety of accounting topics. We also have downloadable Excel templates for all the various practice exercises we work, as well as a video walkthrough of the solution. I continue to update these practice exercises, so even after you join, you may see some new exercises. It's all geared toward helping you to understand the topics. So in addition to those additional lectures and the practice exercises, we also have quizzes and tests to help gauge your understanding of the topic. That may give you a better idea if there's something you need to go back and learn a little bit more about, read more about, watch a video on. We also have downloadable study notes that really try to drive that home. There's a downloadable textbook with it. So feel free to come join this class, come take a look at it. You can find this at udemy.com if you search for Severson, or you can just Google Severson Udemy Accounting to see a list of all the courses that are currently available. Again, I'm working on new courses as we go. Right now you'll see some financial and managerial accounting courses out there. I'm working on the intermediate and advanced side of those particular courses as well, so you may see new ones out there as well. Now, email me for a special 50% off coupon code. You can send an email to chrisseverson@hotmail.com, and I will respond with that code. It's a different code for every course, depending on which one you want. I can also respond with the actual link to that course. Now, all courses at udemy.com have lifetime access, and there's also a money-back guarantee if you're not satisfied. So come check out my course at udemy.com and see if it may be a fit for you. Thank you for your time.